I've been wanting to do this series for a little bit, and hi, this is the Unsmooth Criminal, and this is going to be what if Deku had the abilities from Fireforce. So, he would have Tamaki's, this chick. Sorry, she will have Tamaki's. Because, yes, she will look different than Tamaki, but she will still have Tamaki's fire abilities. She'll have, I think his name is Shiro. You'll have the devil's footprint, or damn it, she will have the devil's footprint. Nah, she's just gonna be a cat girl. She's just gonna be a cat girl. I don't want her to have Tamaki's abilities. So she will have the devil's footprint and Benimaru's abilities. So yes, she is gonna have the X and O eyes, but she's also gonna have a slit down the center of the X and O. No. Um, Perfect picture. There you go. There's what she looks like. But she has blue hair. Her flames are blue. I love the color blue. She has blue hair. Her flames are blue. Her ears are blue. And her tail is blue. So she actually kind of looks more like this. But not a wolf, a cat. So I'm just going to leave this picture up. So she's born and she has a cat quirk. And her parents are like, what the hell? And her father, her biological father, looks at her biological mother and says, "Did you cheat on me?" And she goes, "No, I didn't." And he didn't know that in his line of family, way back when Quirk started, he had a grandparent that had a mutation quirk of a cat. And she also had a mutation quirk of a cat. Actually, the wolf looks better. Leave it as wolf. They had a they both had a cat mutation, and it mutated into a wolf with the feel or hunter abilities of some of the older generation. And they're confused, and they're like, yeah, we don't want this child. So when she's healthy enough to leave, she just leaves her child there. Like a piece of shit mother, she just leaves her child there. And a pro hero gets told about this, so he runs over and he asks, "Where's the child?" And the child is crying because there's no one there to pick her up, and she's just left in the middle of the pickup station, basically. And the hero picks her up and starts comforting her, and she starts to basically, yeah, she's gonna have Devil's Footprint. She starts to basically catch her feet on fire a little. Not a lot, not enough to hurt her or hurt him, but just a tiny bit. And he sees this and is like, I can't deal with fire quirks. If I give this child to him, he's gonna use this child for his benefit. We're really gonna hate doing this. So this man calls a certain asshole of a father and says there's a wolf creature thing here that has a fire quirk and she needs parents. And Ray is not going crazy yet or ever. And he goes, "Okay, I'll adopt her." And he goes, "But you haven't seen what she looks like." And he goes, "What color are the flames?" And he goes, "Blue." And he goes, "Yeah, I'll adopt her." And Aizawa goes, okay. But I have to check up on her every week. And he goes, that's fine. And in this one, Dobby's female. Just saying. So she gets to the household, and it's Endeavor's household because I said Ray earlier. And she already has a little bit of control over her fire. She can shoot a little bit of fire out of her feet, and she can create she can grab things, and then at one end she can make fire. And then she can control the fire to do what she wants. A little bit. And Endeavor, seeing this, goes, okay, I'm going to train her at a very young age. So when she hits 2, I'm going to start training her. 2 years into the future, she's getting her ass beat by Endeavor. Ray's like, she's too young. You need to ease up on her. And he goes, if she doesn't get control of that damn fire, she's going to kill somebody. And Ray goes, I know, but still, you need to ease up on her. She's still just a child. And they start yelling, and she started to see them like parents. And at this point, Aizawa has found the original parents of her, and he asks if they've had a child, and the original parents go, no, we haven't had a child yet. We're expecting our first one soon, though. And they're acting like they've never thought of having a child before this. And he goes, okay. And so he walks off, and Inko and Hisashi Midoriya, being the assholes they are in this one, walk home, and when they get home, they start panicking, thinking, crap, did someone actually adopt her? We thought she's just gonna die. So that's the last time I talk about them. So it's now... she's 4. And Toya has been beaten to the ground so many times by Endeavor and had his quirk overused so many times. But ever since this child, this weird little child, I'll be right back. Thanks, Laz, on Discord for a quick help on the name. So, Sarah, and a quick side note, my sister in real life's name is Sarah. Yeah. And I'm going to make her very scary and intimidating and very into weapons in this one, like she is in real life. Okay, Laz, I will. So, she's currently 4, and she's already been trained with hand-to-hand combat from Endeavor, and Toya is being trained really harshly by Endeavor, and Endeavor's pushing them as hard as he can. And Toya's quirk does not seem to hurt him as much as it did in canon. And Ray's not doing any ice magic, any ice. Todoroki can't use his ice yet because he's just not thinking about it. And Fuyumi, the other few siblings, they're not using their ice. But Sarah is standing in the back and manipulating his fire to go further out from him when he uses it. So when he gets burnt, he only gets burnt a tiny bit. So it's not the whole arm like he originally had. He has just a tiny scar on his palm. So this scar starts to darken, and it gets ugly, and she's the only one that continues to talk to him even after scars. Or her. Dobby is female. Dobby is female. God damn it, I keep doing so many what ifs for Dobby's male. Dobby's female in this one. So they keep talking and they're getting along really well. They're actually acting like sisters. And Sarah is very clingy to Dobby compared to the other siblings. And Ray doesn't know why. Ray wants to get close to Sarah, but she just pushes Ray away and gets closer to Dobby. And one day, Dobby says, "Why do you push everybody away and not me?" And Sarah says, "You're the most hurt. I want to help." And Dobby goes, "Okay. Um, you know how you can help me really quickly?" And she looks at Dobby and goes, "What?" And Dobby says, "If you could also get to know my siblings and my mom." And Sarah goes, "Okay, I'll try." And Sarah thinks of Ray as mom and Endeavor as dad, but she doesn't call him mom or dad. She calls them mother and father. So, like the great words of um what's his name from Guardians of the Galaxy, the blue dude with the arrow. "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." Wait, no, that's not what he says. "He may be your father, but he ain't your daddy." I'm sorry, I just had to quote that. Because she thinks that Endeavor is her father because of the fire bit of her quirk, and she doesn't know where the fire control comes from, but she just knows that the fire came from a fire user, and she thinks that Endeavor is her father. And Endeavor and Ray both know that she is not their child and that they are blessed to have her. And Endeavor has slowly changed over the years after her getting to know Sarah just a tiny bit, to know that she's a very caring child to the people who are hurt. And she saw that Endeavor's hurt, but she saw that he didn't want help, so she just ignored him. So he started to open up. He started to calm down in his approach. And so we skip to when she's 10. She's started to call Ray mom, and Ray did not go crazy and burn Shota's face. Shota is a female in this one. There's only one male son, and he's never coming into the story. So it's a house of mainly girls and 2 guys, so their biological clocks have synchronized. I'm sorry. Jeff Dunham just came over me. I'm sorry. But she has the X and O on her eyes, so everybody's like, "What is wrong with your eyes?" And she goes, "Nothing. It's part of my quirk." And they look at her and they bully her for her mutation of the ears, the tail, and the eyes. They bully her slightly, but not very much, because she comes from the same family as she comes as a Todoroki instead of a Midoriya. She's known as Sarah Todoroki instead of Sarah Midoriya like she should have. So, one day, someone was spying on her. And this man, not knowing what she does for basically a living, because she's been hiding the fact that she's been going out at night to do stuff so she can gain money and help with her addiction. And she goes out and stops villains for payments. Like, you have a specific villain that you want caught within a specific amount of time, she's your girl. If you want a specific villain tortured for a certain amount of time, she's your girl. If you want information about villains, she's your girl. But she only does it for like $100 per assignment, depending on how hard the assignment is. If it's hard, then she'll ask a little bit more. But if it's easy, she'll go, $100, I'll get this done easy. And so she's known as the Blue Wolf in the area because she puts on a wolf mask and no one can see her eyes. And she has blue hair and a blue tail. And her mask is blue. Her fire is blue. And everybody knows that she just has a fire quirk and she has a blue fire quirk. But the heroes who see her use her quirk are like, okay, that is very suspicious. And Endeavor, being the dumbass he is, does not notice that she is the Blue Wolf. You guys are going to have to tell me a good hero name for her. But this one man is spying on her, and he walks up behind her, and she's not paying any attention to her surroundings right now, because she's not in her masked form, so no one should know who she is. But this man is not an idiot. So he walks up behind her, and he grabs her by the neck and teleports away. And Toya and Shota. Toya and Shoto were both walking and talking with her, and then all of a sudden she stopped talking, so they turn around and see that she's not there. So they run back a bit, and they see that she didn't stop and look at stuff. So they call their father and say that Sarah is missing. And him being a slightly kinder father goes, okay, I'll look for her, and starts looking. And he doesn't stop looking for the next 3 years. But with Sarah, she has absolute pain everywhere. And she has a headache. All of a sudden, her ears start to bleed, and her tail loses all its fur, and she feels this pain, and the man standing in front of her grows ears and a tail. It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I'm not supposed to be able to take mutations. And she goes, oh, fuck, it hurts. God, fuck, damn it. And she's cussing like a drunken sailor because of how much it hurts. So he realizes that the emitter part of her quirk is the ears and tail. The mutation is the fire. And he's like, God fucking damn it. He's like, I'm going to just make you a Nomu. So he gives her back the ears and tail, and the pain starts to subside, and her ears, fluffy ears come back, and her fluffy tail comes back. And he goes, how can I break you? And so he starts overloading her with quirks. Then he strips her of those quirks. And then gives her the quirks back. For the next 3 years. And now she's an obedient dog to him. Because she doesn't want to feel that pain of gaining quirks and then getting them ripped out of her. Because it feels like her skin's on fire. And she's never felt the heat from flames before. So she feels the fire of her skin, and she's like, oh, this fucking hurts. So she's an obedient dog now, so he trains her to fight and kill. And he has her kill, and they're like, the Blue Wolf never killed before. And after 3 years, she's training to fight and kill, and she starts killing random civilians, or civilians that this man wants dead. And if you guys know the logic behind quirks and who has a quirk that can steal and give quirks, you know who he is. So she walks into the room, and Shigaraki says, Oi, mutt! You got a new target. And she goes, yes, young master. And she picks up the paper and looks at the picture of the target and puts on the mask and sniffs an article of clothing from the target and goes, I'll be back in an hour. And he goes, you better. If you're late, you're getting punished. And she winces at that and darts off. And she's running on all fours, so she's faster. And she gets right above the target and she sees that it's a Eraserhead that's next to the target. And he's talking to the target like they're old friends. And Eraserhead immediately snaps his head up to where Sarah is. And Sarah, knowing that Eraserhead's really good at sensing people, is hiding everything. He looked at the wrong rooftop. So he looked a little left to where she was, and he's like, oh, so there might be someone here, so we should hurry this up. And she's overhearing this entire conversation, and he goes, okay, so did you bring it? He goes, yeah, I brought the disc. He goes, finally enough evidence to put that man away. God damn, I hate doing shady deals. He goes, well, pleasure doing business with you, Eraserhead. Hopefully we can do this again. And he goes, hopefully I get the permission to do this myself and not have to deal with you guys, because I don't like middlemen and I don't like doing shady deals. And she's hearing this and hearing how hateful of shady deals he is, but he's willing to do it to save and put people behind bars. And without batting an eye, she grabs the pole and uses her flame manipulation to throw it as far as possible. And when it hits a wall, it creates a sign. A small sign, but a sign for Eraserhead. And it says an address, and it says that there's a hostage. And he goes, what? And he turns back around to look at the guy, and his head's clean off. He's on the floor, head clean off. And the sign changes behind him, and he hears the flames moving around. He looks back and says, I'm sorry. I'm the Blue Wolf. Please help me. I'm being tortured. And he remembered the address, so he runs to UA as fast as possible. And the flames disappear, and he bursts into Nezu's office and says that I found where the Blue Wolf is being held. And Nezu goes, what do you mean being held? And he says that apparently the Blue Wolf is being tortured and forced to do stuff that the Blue Wolf doesn't want to do. And Nezu goes, okay, slow down. And did you get the evidence? And he goes, yes. And it's covered in blood. And Nezu goes, I'm guessing you had an encounter with the Blue Wolf. And he goes, no, I had an encounter with a message from the Blue Wolf. And Nezu goes, okay. And Aizawa goes, I'm way ahead of you. I got a body cam on. So he pulls off the body cam, he pulls out the memory chip, and he puts it in the player. And it plays the image of the message, and it says the street name, the building number, what time of day to come so they can sneak in, get her out, or to storm the building and have least casualties. And then he looked over, and the body cam slightly showed a head on the ground and a body. And then he looked back, and the body cam showed the message again. I'm sorry. Please help me. I'm being tortured. And Nezu read this. He replayed it, read this, and he's like, this is not normal. And this is very peculiar. And Aizawa goes, I know it's not normal because the Blue Wolf has never tried to contact us before. And back with Sarah, she just walked into the LOV base and she has no blood on her. She has no mess on her. And it's 59 minutes and 59 seconds to go, or left, or past. She walked in right when it hit an hour. And she goes, I am back. And Shigaraki goes, damn it. Wasn't over an hour. And he's getting pissed off. He's the man-child still. And she goes, young master, I have completed my task. Is there anything else for me to do? And he goes, no. Go to your fucking cage, mutt. And she goes, yes, young master, and walks to her kennel. And walks in and lays down. And she has a pillow. She has a dog bed. And that's it. She gets fed one piece of meat a day. So she is fucking skinny. And she is given 1 gallon of water a day. And that will come important later. So she has a regeneration quirk given by All For One, and she has a increased fire manipulation quirk given from All For One. So she has the improved abilities of Benimaru for fire manipulation. So she can manipulate her fire from further away and make it last longer when it's split apart. And it's now 11 o'clock at night, and all the LOV are asleep except for Sarah. She's been a light sleeper her entire life, but she's even lighter while she's in the LOV base. And we go to Nezu and Aizawa, who are still talking, and Endeavor bursts through the room, saying, where the hell is she? I want my adopted daughter back. And they go, what do you mean? And he goes, I found enough evidence to prove that my adopted daughter is the Blue Wolf. I know you have evidence to show where she is. Now tell me. And Nezu goes, please calm down. We are getting a task force ready to move tomorrow morning. And he goes, that's too late. What happens if they torture her again? And he's getting emotional, and Aizawa sees this and goes, whoa, 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 whoa. The fuck is wrong with Endeavor? And this is in his mind, obviously. And Nezu, also in his mind, is like, damn. She must have really changed Endeavor. Okay. And he goes, let's storm it right now. And Nezu goes, we had information from the Blue Wolf, apparently Sarah Todoroki, and she said that the best time is from 6:30 to 7:30. And he goes, that's bullshit. And Nezu goes, oh, really? You taught her to be observant. You taught her to control her flames. You taught her how to use her flames. So do you not think her to be intelligent enough to gather enough evidence to help us successfully rescue her from the damn LOV who've been bothering us this goddamn entire time? And Nezu's raising his voice, which Nezu never does. And Endeavor's getting scared because Nezu never raises his voice. And he goes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He bows and he apologizes multiple times. And Nezu goes, it's fine. Just stop. And Endeavor goes, yes, sir. And he walks out. He walks to Recovery Girl. And he sits down and asks Recovery Girl, because she's currently there at the moment, if she could listen. And Recovery Girl is good at listening. And she goes, sure. So he vents. He just vents everything. Not his actual fire or heat, just his anger and emotions that he's felt the last 3 years that he's been bottling up and trying to hide. And by the time that happens, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And Nezu pushes the intercom and says, "All pro heroes on campus and on patrol, please come to UA immediately." 5 minutes later, they are all in the conference room at UA. And UA says, "We have the guaranteed location of the LOV via a very good source." And they all ask, "What's the source?" And he says, "The source is from the hostage that they have. And the hostage is his daughter." And he points at Endeavor, and Endeavor is... his flames are getting hotter because he's just ready to do this. And everybody sees Endeavor ready to do this, and they're like, okay. So Nezu explains them their plan of attack, and Shigaraki and All For One and Kurogiri are not at this base. It's all thugs and extras. So the heroes storm the base. They find what looks like a dog kennel. And they find one occupant. And Endeavor sees who it is and starts to cry. And she's scared of everybody at this point. And then Aizawa pops his head out from behind Endeavor. And she sees Aizawa. And she says, you. And she points at Aizawa, and he goes, "Yes, me." And she goes, "Friend?" And she's scared of everybody because she's mentally broken from the giving and taking of the quirks. And he goes, "Yes, I am a friend. I'm the one you showed the message, you sent the message to." And her eyes brighten, being like, "Yay!" So she runs and hugs Aizawa, and he hugs back, patting her head. And Endeavor starts crying, being like, "We finally found you!" But he doesn't voice this, and Aizawa goes, "Okay, let's get you out of here." And he takes her to a police car and says, "Take her to UA and see if Recovery Girl can fix her a little bit if she's injured." And they go, "Yes, sir." They take her to UA, and she's terrified. She won't even get out of the car now, because she heard Aizawa and she can recognize his face and voice, but she doesn't remember any of the other heroes, even though she was a hero geek before. And the cop calls Aizawa saying, "Sir, she won't get out of the car. And every time I get near her, her flames start." And he goes, "Okay. It seems like she's in a fight or flight response, and okay, I'm coming." And they're wrapping up all the thugs, and he goes, "Okay, now Masa, can you take me to UA?" And now Masa goes, "Sure." And Aizawa gets driven to UA, and he coaxes her out of the back of the car, and she comes out, and she hugs him, and she's the size of a 10-year-old, by the way. She didn't grow because of what All For One did, and it stunted her growth. She's the size of a 10-year-old. She's mentally a 3-year-old, scared of everybody. And she's regretting all the things that she's done. And she can't speak in full sentences, but she can write full sentences with her flames. So Aizawa's like, she can't seem to speak full sentences. So he pulls out a flame-resistant pen. that he had a person with a very weak fire quirk that can't speak at all use to write. So he gave it to her and she took it and she's like, "What? Why?" And he goes, "You can use that to write out the sentences you want with your flames." And she goes, "Okay." And she starts writing out complete and complex sentences, being like, "Who can I trust and what is this place?" And he goes, "Okay, that is a complete 180 from what you were doing a few seconds ago. But you can trust me and this big guy behind me." And he points to Endeavor. And she sees flames and goes, "Oh God." And she starts backing up from him a little. Endeavor loses the flames and puts on a sad expression, be like, "Oh, she doesn't like me. She thinks I left her." And she sees an NG Todoroki, and she remembers NG Todoroki, not Endeavor, NG Todoroki, and she runs and jumps and hugs him because his flames are off. She recognized him, but when his flames were on, she didn't recognize him. So when she ran up and hugged him, he smiled genuinely for the first time. And I saw this and was like, "Okay. I'm suggesting after you let her go see Recovery Girl, you can take her home to the Todoroki residence." And he goes, "I definitely will do that. Ray has missed her." And her hearing Ray's name, because she does remember Ray, and she starts writing out a sentence again, and she asks, "What about Toya and Shoto?" And Endeavor goes, "Toya has missed you, and Shoto is worried about you." And she looks down sad, and she writes in the uh, pen of, "But what about everything I've done?" And he goes, "You were forced to do that. That wasn't your choice." And she goes, "The last 3 years were hell." And he goes, I don't know what you went through, but when you're ready, I'm here to listen." And she goes, "Okay." And so she hugs him and she clings to him and he walks her to Recovery Girl, and Recovery Girl sees an NG Todoroki, not Endeavor, NG Todoroki, walking towards her, and she goes, Well, this is a surprise, Todoroki." And he goes, "Well, I have my daughter back." And he walks in and he sits down on a bed and she clings to his arm, trying to hide behind it because it's a very big arm. And he chuckles at this a little and says, "You can trust her. She's kind and nice." And she's slightly addicted to sweets. 3-year-old mentality. Sweets. Gotta have them. Otherwise you'll die. So she pops her head out from behind his arm and she holds out a lollipop and she tilts her head a little and she goes, "Candy." And Sarah, immediately knowing what candy is, goes, "Ooh." So she runs and grabs the lollipop and starts sucking on it and tries to chew it and doesn't get very far on chewing it. So Endeavor goes, "You're supposed to suck on it, not chew on it." And she goes, "Oh." And she doesn't speak very much, but when she does, it's very clear what she's saying, and it has a lot of meanings when she does speak. And so Endeavor pats her head like the loving, caring father he is. And he says, "Recovery Girl, can you please check her for injuries? And if she isn't injured, and can I please take her home?" And Recovery Girl does a quick checkup and says, "She's perfectly fine. She's perfectly healthy." And he goes, "That's good then." She goes, No. Listen to what I said. She is perfectly healthy. And he goes, is that bad? And Recovery Girl goes, only regeneration quirks can achieve this kind of health. And he looks at her and goes, I'm only going to ask you this once, but are you willing to tell us what he did to you? And she starts shaking and all she says is pain. And he hugs her saying, okay, that's it. You don't need to say any more. And she's continuing to shake, and she's shaking even more violently now, and she started to have a panic attack, and he's like, oh God, hopefully. And he's hugging her slightly tight, and to give a comforting tightly, not the I'm going to crush you to death tight. And he's hugging her quite tight, and she's still shaking. And she's slowly calming down. And when she finally calms down, she is asleep. She's fallen asleep, hugging him, and he's hugging her. Hold on. I had to check a sound out for my parents. I have a pool at my house, and I love the pool. Don't get me wrong, but it's a nightmare to take care of. So I gotta be right back. So after she had the panic attack, she's asleep in Endeavor's arms, and he goes, I'm gonna take her home now. Have a great rest of the day, Recover Girl. And Recover Girl goes, okay, you gotta keep an eye on her. Because with what he did, she probably has a lot of triggers for trauma. And he goes, I understand. I'll keep an eye on her. And so he goes home, and he walks in the door, and Ray, he looks over and doesn't see Endeavor. She sees Enji Todoroki. And she's about to say something, and he shushes her. He doesn't say shut up. He doesn't say be quiet. He shushes her. When you put your finger to your lips, just saying shh, that's a shush. And she's like, okay. And he turns around completely and shows a little girl in his arms with blue hair, blue ears, and a blue tail, asleep. And Ray's eyes light up. And she starts to cry with joy. And we skip to the next day, and Sarah is finally waking up from the panic attack, and Endeavor is right next to her waiting for her to wake up, and she wakes up, looks around, and sees that she's in her old room. But she's freaking out because she's in a new place. She doesn't remember her old room, because she almost never stayed in there longer than like a minute or two. Or she just went in there, fell asleep, and then went out when she woke up and got dressed. So she starts freaking out, but she then sees Endeavor, and she clings to him and is shaking a little, and he wakes up with the shake of a frightened little girl, and he pats her head saying, it's okay, this is your room. You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you here. And she grabs a pen that's currently on the nightstand, and she writes in the air with the fire, do you promise? And he goes, yes, I promise. No one will hurt you here. There's actually someone I want you to say hi to. And she goes, who? And she didn't say this. She's writing all of it. And he goes, Ray. And when he says Ray walks in and says, hi, Sarah. And her eyes light up and she jumps and hugs Ray, and she has the nimbleness of a wolf, so she jumped and hugged Ray. And she landed at Ray's chest to chest, basically. And yes, she's going to be a lolly in this one because her growth got stunted. I don't really want to do a lolly one, but this one just fits this way. Oh, crap. And Ray is hugging Sarah back, and Dobby walks in, and Dobby has a few more burns than last time. Not as many, but she has a few more burns because her body's getting used to the fire quirk instead of just getting immediate pain and not being able to adapt to it. So her body's meant for now a ice and low heat fire quirk. So now she doesn't get scars. She just has a chance of hurting herself with the heat if she uses too much. Oh, crap. And Sarah sees that what? I don't understand what you just said. Lies. But she hugs Dobby, seeing Dobby, and Shoto walks in and she sees Shoto and she hugs Shoto, and they're like, is this really Sarah? And she writes in the air with her pen, I'll race you to find out. And they go, okay. And Sarah gets ready in the starting line. She took her shoes off, and well, she technically never had shoes on this entire time. But she gets ready in the yard, and she gets in a sprinter stance. And her feet start producing flames. And Dobby's like, oh, I'm convinced. And she's just like, could be someone else with the devil's footprint as a quirk. And Enji says, go. Well, actually, he says Hajime, which means go, or fight in some occasions. Or does it just mean fight? I don't really know. He says go, or begin, whatever you want to call it. And she immediately starts sprinting with the devil's footprint, and the fires aren't going backwards. They're going straight at Todoroki. They're just going straight to Shoto, right in her face. And Sarah is laughing, and she's running, and she runs around the entire compound, and she runs back, and Shoto is only halfway around the compound, and she got back, and she's like, again. And she's saying this, and everybody's like, okay. And Endeavor pulls Ray to the side after he says go again to Sarah. He pulls Ray to the side and says to Dobby to watch them, and if Sarah starts freaking out, call me. And she goes, sure. He pulls Ray to the side and says that Ray has multiple quirks now. And Ray goes, what do you mean multiple quirks? And he says exactly that. The asshole gave her multiple quirks, and he stripped them from her and gave them back, stripped them from her, for her to become an obedient dog. And he's explaining what happened to her because he kind of deduced this from her reaction and just her saying pain. And he finally says, I don't want her to be a hero. I don't want her to be hurt anymore. And Ray says, I'm sorry, but if she chooses, she's gonna be a hero. And he goes, I know, but I don't want her to be a hero. And Shoto finally gets back to the beginning, and Sarah's just about to hit the end of the second lap, and she sees Endeavor's gone. And she's like, did he leave me? And she's stuttering, trying to speak, and Dobby goes, no, he didn't leave. He's just inside for a second, and he's gonna come back out. He hugs her, going, it's gonna be all right. You don't need to worry. God damn it. She hugs her, and she starts to cry a little, and Endeavor says that's all I just wanted to tell you, just to be careful to try to steer away from certain triggers, and I may have accidentally triggered her. And Ray goes, what do you mean? And he points behind Ray, and well, because Ray was at the door, and he just opened the door and looked out. He points behind Ray and says, me disappearing probably triggered that. And he walks over and gives them all a big hug and says, it's all right, I'm not leaving. I just need to tell Ray something, and we're going to continue this race. And he gets to the starting line and he goes, Sarah, you want to race me? And her eyes widen, going, yeah. And she wipes the tears from her face, and she gets ready, and her eyes are a little bit puffy because she was just crying. And so she gets ready, and Ray says, on your marks, get ready, set, go. And Endeavor starts flying, and Izumi is like, not Izumi, damn it. Sarah is like, that's cheating. But she starts flying, and he goes, you learned fast. And she just goes, yep. And starts flying faster than him. And he tries to fly faster than her. So it's a constant race, like in, what movie is it? No, it's not in a movie. It's, in SAO. Alfheim Online, where Kirito and Leafa are going, and Leafa speeds up. Kirito is behind her, and he goes, is that all you got? And she goes faster, and he continues to speed up with her. So, that's the end of me talking about SAO. I do not own anything of SAO, by the way. Ooh, I may do an SAO crossover. May or may not. May or may not. But, anyways. So, they're flying around the compound like 3 or 4 times, and they finally land. And Sarah lands just a split second before Engie. And Engie goes, I win! And she goes, no. And he goes, I didn't see you land. And she goes, me. And he goes, prove it. And he's giving a little bit of sass, and just a tiny bit, just to mock her just a tiny bit. And Dobby walks up saying, Dad, she's right. And she grins, a little bit of a toothy grin. And she writes out, see? Obviously I'm right. I landed a split second before you did. And Shoto reads this and goes, yeah, she's right. And Ray reads this and goes, yeah, she's right. And he goes, what? I clearly landed before her. And they go, no. You just made a bigger landing. And he goes, what does that mean? And they go, you're heavy. That's what it means. And Ray didn't say this. And she goes, it means you got a lot of muscle. That's what that means. And Sarah is there for 6 months, and she's slowly healing her mental wounds. And Ray finally walks up to her and asks, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she's currently 14 and a half, and she said she writes with pen because she's still mute pretty much. She writes with pen, hero. And Ray goes, okay, so if you want to be a hero, you're going to have to train like a hero. And that means you're going to have to train with your father again. But you have a choice. You could be a non-quirk using hero, which is a police officer, a firefighter, a paramedic. And she lists all these good career paths. And then she says, or you could be a hero like your father and use your quirk. And Sarah writes in the air, what's the difference? And Ray goes, the difference is the fighting. There's a lot more fighting when you're a hero with a hero license. And there's a lot more risk and danger involved with a hero and hero license. In the police force and the paramedic force and the firefighters, there's a lot less danger involved. But when there is a lot of danger involved, you can't rely on the heroes. And if you use your quirk, you're immediately kicked off. So she's thinking about this, and Ray says, okay, I'll let you think, because I must know in a year from now if you want to be a hero, so I can help you get into the best hero school, so you can continue your healing process, and so you can learn how to be a hero. And Sarah just nods, being like, okay. And at this point, Sarah has used the money that she's hidden away, and she remembers she hid away, because when she saw her room again, she started freaking out. But when Ray walked in, she saw Ray and was like, flower, under flower, because Ray has a flower garden, and under the flower garden she started to hide the money she got from doing the jobs. So she wrote in the air to Endeavor if he could get her some weapons, and he asks, why does she want weapons? And she goes, because I want the ability to use my quirk on these weapons, and it will help me with controlling my quirk. Okay. And he goes, sure, what weapons? So she wrote out a list: a halberd, a bow, a shield. And when I say a bow, I mean a bow staff, not an actual pull back the arrow, launch the arrow bow. She lists out a bow, halberd, bow, shield, lance shield. She lists out every kind of weapon and weapon combo. And a shield is technically a weapon because you can do blunt force damage with it. And it can defend you from other attacks. And then you can push the weapon back into them. So it's technically a weapon. You can use it in different ways like a weapon. And some shields even have sharp edges to use as a weapon. So it's a weapon. Especially all you Rising of the Shield Hero fans. It's a weapon. But so he gets all these weapons and he sees another quirk that she's gotten. Weapons Master. And all for one, I was like, she's just going to be a loyal dog for the rest of her life. She's just going to need to know how to use weapons when she gets into big fights. So he gave her the quirk Weapon Master, and any master she picks up, she weapons. No, any weapon she picks up, she masters. And it has a time limit before she can master another weapon. 24 hours. So all these weapons show up at his door, and the person who delivered them is like, why did you want all these in flame retardant metal? And he goes, we're a house of fire-based quirks. And he shows a fistful of fire, and the person's like, oh, makes sense. That's going to be blank. And he goes, holy crap. And Sarah basically flies up behind him with her devil's footprint, and she taps him on the shoulder, and he turns around, and he sees her flying, and says, what did I say about unauthorized quirk usage in the house? And so she basically slowly descends, and she hands him a thick, when I say thick, it's thick wad of cash. And he looks at this, and he starts counting, and he goes, okay. So he just hands the wad of cash over, and he goes, that's enough. And actually, that's the exact amount you need. And he goes, okay. So Endeavor helps move all these weapons into her room, and she starts making weapon racks out of wood. And she uses a few different kinds of wood. She uses oak, she uses birch, she uses some cherry, she uses some redwood. And she uses different lacquers for all of them. She uses a dark lacquer, she uses a light lacquer, she even used a clear lacquer for some of them. And she found a wood that she liked. She loved the dark red hued lacquer on the cherry wood. Or no, the redwood wood. The redwood wood. Redwood wood. The redwood. So she made all the weapon racks out of the dark red lacquered redwood. And these aren't just any normal weapon racks. These are handcrafted, expert-made weapon racks. Because she picked up a dagger, learned how to use it, and just started whittling with it. She whittled with a dagger! Well, it is a 6-inch blade, so it is kind of good for whittling. But she did that, and Endeavor watched the speed and craftsmanship that she put into whittling, and he's like, okay. Now I know not to get on her bad side. And by the time she was done with all this wood and lacquer, she got addicted to it. She got addicted to whittling. So it's close to her birthday, and Ray and Endeavor saw that she started to get into whittling, and so they are like, okay. So they go out one day, and they get chisels, they get sandpaper, they get electric sander and the sandpaper belts that it needs. They get a few packs of chisels and some carving knives, and they get her a lot of whittling supplies. And on her birthday, she opens a present, and inside the box, it just had a card, and it made her go on an Easter egg hunt. And each time she found something, she was told to put it in her room and then take a certain amount of steps, turn certain amount of steps, turn certain amount of steps to get to the next one. And so she did, and she found all the whittling supplies, and it was all put in this one area. And this pen never leaves her side. She pulled it out of her pocket, and by the way, she does kind of look like this, but the lolly version. No tattoos. No bags under her eyes. And the lolly version. I prefer this picture much better. And she pulls out the pen and from her pocket, and she starts writing in the air. Thank you. I don't know what to say. And then they just hug her saying, you silly. You don't need to say anything. We saw that you liked whittling and we got you some supplies. And the next part, if you guys want this to stay a series, will be the entrance exams. And the whittling will come into perspective later, because it's not needed right this second. So, if you guys want this to stay a series, like, comment, subscribe. I'll put my Discord in the description, and I gotta update those videos. Thank you, Ken Konecki, for reminding me.